Ed Cheserek is lining up here several hours after his mile that he cruised through in roughly 4 minutes. This is just, I'm just staggered by what this man can do. And he is scheduled to come back. I say scheduled. I think this is in the back of his mind. I'm sure it'll be a collaboration between Andy Powell, head coach Robert Johnson, and Cheserek. How do you feel after the 5,000? He's got to get through this. Hopefully he wins this for his team, I'm sure he's thinking. But he may be back for the distance medley relay to anchor that in about 34 minutes or so, 30 minutes. We'll see.
Well, we've seen him do it before. He did it last year, came back after a mile prelim, a 5,000 victory, and then the DMR. Here are the records for the men's 5,000. Lowry LeLang of Arizona has the collegiate record. He also has the meet record. And Ches has the collegiate best at 13:32.59, but he will endeavor to win this with as little effort as he possibly can so he can be available to the team for the DMR, which is the concluding event on the schedule tonight.
And a man who may push him in the sense that not settle down for a slow pace at all, which I think Ches would be thrilled with, is Colby Gilbert, the junior from Washington, who has just steadily improved under head coach Greg Metcalf. He's running 13 minutes and 34 seconds. And when you do all the math on that, that's about a 4:23 mile pace for 3.1 miles. If you're not familiar with exactly, everybody understands the mile, so I always go there so you get a visual picture of how fast that is. But these guys don't want to fool around with Ches. They know his speed. In a 5,000 meter race, he has run that I can recall a last 200 meters when he's had to of 26 seconds. So it's just stunning what the guy can do and how fast he recovers to be able to consider another race. When I do the math now, just fine-tuning it here in the last couple of minutes, after this race and after the women's distance medley relay, the spread by the time he gets the baton should be, if everything's on time, just 26 minutes. And he is going to have to run, I think, a sub 4-minute mile for his team to win.
Well, I think it is well documented. There are loads of historically talented individuals that have hailed from the Cathedral of Hayward Field in Oregon. One of them is King Ches, Edward Cheserek, who is in his last year of writing his legacy. Coach Robert Johnson marvels at what Cheserek has been able to accomplish.
What Edward is doing is definitely in continuation and along the lines of what's been done before. He's just doing it from an NCAA championship perspective on a whole nother level. To be tied for the most decorated NCAA championship wins in the whole history of the NCAA, you know, that's a mouthful in itself. And we as coaches, we as you and I, and the fans and the people that see him on a daily basis probably don't realize or take for granted what it is that he's doing. But when we go back and get removed from this thing 3, 4, 5, 10 years, we're going to look back on this Edward Cheserek run at the University of Oregon as something that has really been special.
Well, to Robert Johnson's point, we all in the sport look upon this as extraordinarily special now, and I don't think that legacy will shrink down as it goes by. 68 seconds plus, right on schedule for a very solid pace. You do the math on that, you're working out to about a 4:34 first mile. The other guys up front are not fooling around. I can look at their stride pattern, I can look at the arm action and the seriousness of purpose, and everybody's out there to really run. They're not going to let this pace settle down.
Well, I think that getting third at the NCAA cross-country championships when he was going for his 4th title in a row showed that he at least is mortal. And maybe some of these guys are saying, you know, he's already run a mile. I'm only running this 5,000. He's thinking about running the DMR. You know, maybe I can make him run at least and get a chance that maybe he doesn't. It's just not inevitable.
Exactly. And if I was in the race, I'd be thinking the same thing. I had the great honor, Dwight. I was not in your league at all. But I remember that I was up against, with the Boston College team trying to win the distance medley relay at Penn. And I was up against a couple of milers who had run 4 hours before, not just 1 or 2. And I said, I'm going to take them out. If I die, I die. And on a chewed up soft track, I ran on the mile leg, I ran the first 457.8, which for me was tough. And then I went by in like 2:02, but I could hear the crowd in between as they would not cheer for me, they would cheer for Villanova, and they would call out the guy's name. It was longer and longer before they said anything after I went by. But it was that type of resiliency that you said, I've got to show this to break this guy. These guys are trying to do the same thing to Ches, the exact same thing. They may not be successful, of course, and probably won't be, but you don't let the pace lag, you got no hope.
Right, exactly. And then you got the opposite, or the other end of the spectrum of him. Now, the target's on his back. He knows what's expected of him, and anything less than a victory here is a gigantic failure, because that's the way it works. As we've spoken, he has now worked himself from about 9th place into 4th place.
Let's tell you briefly, while we have a couple of minutes on a stream, you can do this, about his career. Dad encouraged him to get involved with running. He said, Kenyans have a great history. We are from the Marakwet tribe, which is a subset of the Kalenjins, where almost all the great runners come from. So Ches said, okay, I'll try it. And in school, he winds up winning the steeplechase, the 5 and the 10,000 meters while he's in high school for the Kenyan Schools Championship. And the start was obviously born. He was offered a scholarship to St. Benedict's Prep. The coach there, Marty Hannon, says, I did not know of his ability. And it was largely set up even before Hannon got involved over there. And he had to, with washed out roads, he had no way to get to the exam he had to do. And so he ran and jogged 60 miles to take this screening test to see if he could qualify. He comes to this country, and the rest of the story is history, starting at St. Benedict's Prep, where he, within 2 years, ran under 8 minutes and 40 seconds for 2 miles and broke the legendary Jerry Lindgren's record that had stood for over 50 years of what a high school kid in America had done at 2 miles.
Well, a little more than 14 laps remaining in this 5,000 meters. We're going to go downstairs to John Anderson, who has some news to break that isn't great. As we get back with 9 laps remaining, Edward Cheserek continues in 4th place in this race. Let's see if we can tell you who's in the positions ahead of him, Larry.
Wait, let me fill you in. That is Eric Peterson from Butler, who has one of the best times in the country coming in. And he's been forcing the pace here for much of the 2nd mile of this race. And it's been very steady. It's been a metronome pace here. MJ Erb from Ole Miss is in 2nd place. There's Cheserek just biding his time with everybody else for about 4:30 for the 1st mile and about a 4-minute 30 seconds for the 2 miles. So they went by in about 9 minutes. It has not slowed down. It has been steady. Cheserek, it seems, totally comfortable here while we've been away with what is going on and the pace itself.
And that's Rory Linkletter of BYU, who is in 3rd position, the shoulder upon which Ches is now moving. And we just got some Ches news. At least we're being told, and this could always change, but the decision has been made that he is not running in the distance medley relay, the concluding event of the program tonight. That can always change, but as of now, it has been said he is not scheduled to run in the DMR as he now steps into 3rd position in this 5,000 meters. And we're going to be coming up on 6 laps remaining.
3,200 meter time was 8 minutes and 57 seconds by Eric Peterson, the senior from Butler. Now MJ Erb has the lead, so you make the adjustment and it's right on 9 minutes for 2 miles. They have 6 laps to go in the men's 5K.
And you can see there's some bunching up taking place in the middle of the pack. Some of the runners out into lane 3 as Erb picks up the pace with Ches right there in 2nd position.
And I don't think you're going to see Ches let anybody get away. Certainly this is a pace that can be handled by MJ Erb, one of the great distance corps runners down at Ole Miss. They have a contingent that it looks like Oregon South in the best days at Oregon as far as depth goes.
And Erb winning the 5,000 meter title at the SEC championships 2 weeks ago. at Vanderbilt. But if he's not running the DMR and he knows that for certain, Ches can then certainly let it fly a little bit here in this 5,000, as now into third place comes Eamon Terrer of Campbell, the senior from Kenya.
And the pace, by the way, Herb has ratcheted up. 67 seconds for the last 2 laps. We now have 800 meters to go. And watching Herb's turnover, he is in full flight. The man has picked up the pace here. He's doing his best to try and put pressure on Ed Cheserek, the King. The King seems to have no part of anything except staying close to Herb at this point. He looks totally comfortable.
So Herb has decided now he's just slowed it down a little bit, but I just don't think it matters. I'm looking at Cheserek, and he looks like he does all the time when he's in a position to do whatever is necessary to win the race. As we see Mark Scott now of Tulsa in Great Britain now up in the mix in the top 3, and Ches takes over. With a little more than 2 laps remaining, he does take over. Herb stays in it, but now it's Mark Scott who is trying to assert himself into the mix.
He has not started a kick either. I'm talking about Cheserek. That last lap in 32.5 seconds, so they're now at a 65 pace before this lap. Here we come up to 2 to go here, and they will hit with 2 to go in 12:47. Let's see what the last 400 meters has run in.
And they dropped Herb. He's moving backwards in a big hurry, and Cheserek just shifted into third. He's got another gear. He's not in full flight yet because he doesn't need to be. But I'll tell you who is. Mark Scott trying to catch it. Coming around to the bell. Edward Cheserek looks back. Now he shifts. With a lap remaining, he's got 5 meters on Mark Scott of Tulsa, and he's running close to the line and loses his balance a little bit. But now Cheserek in his full turnover looks back once again, realizes that he's not going to be caught, and he's on his way with 100 meters to go to his 16th overall NCAA title, his 14th individual title, and he still has races remaining at this meet and the NCAA Outdoor Championships in June.
Wow, 13:41 he goes by in 12:40, so that's a 54-second last 400 meters. Wow. Just wow, and making it look so easy. So easy.
We're looking at the all-time NCAA championship titleist on the men's side, Edward Cheserek, the senior at Oregon, who still has a mile to contest tomorrow, for which he has qualified. A DMR that he says he's not running, but I'll believe it when there's somebody else in his spot running it, as he wins in 13:41.20 over Mark Scott of Tulsa. And then Eamon Terrer of Campbell was third, and John Dressel of Colorado, whose name we never mentioned, comes up for 4th place in this 5,000 meters.